listeners, thank you for tuning in to our fabulous podcast. The current COVID restrictions limit our lineup of hosts and guests. As soon as possible, we will bring you the full diversity of queer voices from Brussels. In the meantime, stay safe and happy listening.
Welcome to this new episode of KET Talks, the podcast of KET Magazine. I am Philippe and I am your host. So today we'll talk about sports and how we queer people, we have found our way in competitive and recreational sports. So to talk about this, I'm in the fabulous company of these three rainbow friends. So the first is Vincent, our LGBTQI specialist with his cute French accent. So Vincent, did you go or did you do your gym routine today?
Hello, Philippe. I'm happy to be here. And yes, of course, I did my gym routine like every day to keep that body.
If you want to see the body, check our YouTube. Oops. So next to Vincent sits Bogat, our book reader and series movie watcher. So Bogat, what is your favorite sports?
Ooh, well, I love bowls and, of course, some water sports.
Okay, I hope we will have also serious conversations today. But thank you, Bogat, and welcome. And next to him sits, of course, Vjeran. So next to electronic music, Gaga and RuPaul, are you also passionate about sports?
Is voguing a sport? Hello.
we'll see if it's part of this.
I'm happy to be a part.
We are really happy also. So, as said, our topic is queer people in sports. And as usually, Vincent has been digging into history. So we are very curious to hear how gender and sexuality have been integrated in sports. I am sure we will again learn new things today.
Well, Philippe, throughout history, sports has been a sex-segregated activity with a binary approach. So male on one side, female on the other. And it was already the case in ancient Greece with the Olympic Games, which was not only a male-exclusive competition, but also had a male-exclusive audience. So women were not allowed to come and watch male perform their sports. Girls, they could take part in what was called the Heraean Games for the goddess Hera that were organized also every 4 years. And it was for an opportunity for unmarried young female to participate in one activity, which was a race about 160 meters. So that was the only sport competition that women had at that time. Then it was thought as an activity for maintaining the body in good health, but also for preparation for military adventures. It was a way to demonstrate virility and manhood, of course. Sports re-emerged as an important component of society only in the 19th century, and it was associated for male with strength and competition and domination, while it was seen as a way for women to improve body and posture. This leads to the modern Olympic Games. The first edition was male only, but from the second edition in the 1900s, women could participate, although only 22 did when you had more than 1,000 men participating. And this led to actions between the two world wars for defending women and sports for women, the organization of women's Olympiads and women World Games that led to more and more of the sports open to women in the Olympic Games. After the Second World War, we still have this development of sports massively as a sex-segregated and also gender-normative activity, which means that LGBTQI plus people were not openly welcome and could even be excluded. The first cases, for example, of participation of intersex people in competition, and also the fear at that time of a transgression of sex boundaries by athletes from communist countries, for men competing in the women competition, led to the implementation of the first sex verification tests for women.
Wow.
So women had to be checked at home before they were taking part in the competitions. And these first tests were implemented in 1950 by the International Association of Athletics, and then by the International Olympic Committee in 1968. Those tests are no longer mandatory, but they can be conducted when a doubt arises, with sometimes tragic consequences. And this is, for example, the case of what happened to an Indian athlete whose name was Pratina Gaunkar, who committed suicide in 2003 after a failed sex verification test. And, for example, it's also the case with intersex South African athlete, Caster Semenya, which had won 2 gold medals in 2012 and 2016 Olympics on 800-meter race, that is now excluded from these races or this competition due to her intersex situation.
Gender, yeah.
So, sex and gender role conformity and normativity conveyed in sports also mean that transgender people can face discrimination, and that individuals with diverse sexual orientation are not always welcome or don't always feel welcome in the practice of sports, especially team sports.
Yeah. So, Bogat, you have been practicing sports when you were younger.
Indeed.
Yeah, were you out? How did you live it?
Well, my experience when I was younger, I played handball for more than 10 years. And of course, it was a very difficult situation because I was struggling with my own sexuality. But being in a team where you are close with your teammates every day, and then you basically grow up with them, but you still have to keep this huge secret, it was very hard. And the problem was that I had no example. I didn't know. I couldn't even imagine that I can be gay and also participate in pro sports, because there was no examples in Hungary. We didn't talk about it. Relating to what Vincent told us, the only news what we heard about sportsmen who were intersex or trans, indeed it came when it was about doping, when it was about crossing these gender boundaries, and of course these news were negative. So that was also a big problem when I was growing up, because I had no positive example to see how can I be gay and how can I be a sportsman. So yeah, it was quite hard.
Yeah, I feel a bit the same. When I was younger, a long time ago, I was a swimmer and I was in a closet when I was swimming a lot. So at a certain moment, I was part of the Belgian swimming team in the early 2000s, and I qualified for the European Championships and World Championships. And being still like in the closet was really scary. I was really scared that people would know, and I'm sure that the effect on my quality as a swimmer, my performances was huge. I think I would have been a better swimmer if I'd been out, because it was just this big thing inside of me that was holding me back of doing better, feeling at ease with everybody. Yeah. And it's true that I remember at those championships there were almost no out athletes. I just knew that one swimmer from Holland, Johan Kenkhuis, he was one of the only out swimmers back in these days, and it's really the early 2000s. And I went to check about the Olympic Games, how many gay athletes, out gay and lesbian athletes there was, and I saw that in Athens, which is in 2004, there were only 11 out athletes. In Beijing, 2008, 15, London in 2012, 23, and Rio, which is 2016, the last ones, 69. So we see that it's increasing, but when you know that there's 10,000 participants to those games and you have only like less than 100 out athletes, it's really not much. Yeah. Then I have maybe a question about other sports, because you did a team sports, I did an individual sports, but it's true that in team sports it seems to be harder to be out. Do you have the same feeling?
Well, if I can say, I did an individual sport, two different ones in childhood. It was first swimming, and then I was doing taekwondo for almost 6-7 years. And even though both are individual sports, you can imagine what kind of atmosphere there is in the gym at the taekwondo club in Zagreb in Croatia. It's not a very queer-friendly place to be out and proud and be like, hey guys, you know, I'm gay, and now we're gonna go fight. It definitely affects your well-being, your even confidence, because you're not confident about yourself being gay, so you're obviously exuding that into your environment. And I think it's very, very important for people to understand themselves before they even get into professional sport, because as you've said, I think it takes a huge toll on a professional sports person to have to hide such a thing in any of the sports, individual, collective sport. I cannot say which one is harder, which one is easier, but I can say that for anybody, it must be a tough thing.
Yeah, I agree. And also the fact that when you're in the locker room, it is a very obvious space for gives a possibility to bullying, to get a lot of negative remarks. And this can come not only from your teammates, but also from your coaches, who might see your sexuality as a distraction or a weakness, and they will try to push you, and they often employ these kind of harsh measures and discrimination and even corporal punishment. I mean, I come from Hungary, which is in the far east of Europe, and I grew up in a very, I can say it was a very toxic masculine environment, and my coaches were very much a good example of this toxic masculinity.
I think it was the same for me, coming from a small village, even in France, where everybody was playing basketball. So I was playing basketball when I was a kid. But yeah, you have this expectation of being tough, of doing well, and I think that's also a reason why these numbers that you mentioned are so low, is that there's a lot of self-censorship. Like, I think a lot of queer people think that they are not welcome in sports. So I guess growing up, they just go to other kinds of activities where they feel they are more welcome. So at the end, when we go to Olympics level, I guess a lot of queer people that would have loved to pursue a career in sports or go into these high-level competitions, they just dropped out.
Yeah, and I think that it would be amazing if there would be a world famous football player, male player, who would do his outing.
Yeah.
It would be worth every campaign, like to improve acceptance of homosexuality and being queer. And I think there's a big difference between males and females in sports. I will say it like that because when you see role models in women's sports, you have Megan Rapinoe, the American football star. She's a crazy and inspiring woman. And I think for girls in sports, it must be amazing to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I can only agree.
Yeah. And we should maybe have the same in male sports. I don't know if Ronaldo is gay. Some are hoping it, but
Don't be outing somebody here. It can only be our wish. We've all heard something, but from the rumors that we hear, I think it would be incredible for young gay men, especially like children and teenagers, to see that, you know, somebody like Ronaldo, let's not say him as him, but somebody like him, a great big football star. You know, he's a great big football star, he's gay, and those two things do not correlate. You know, it's just two simply things that exist at the same time, and one has nothing to do with the other. And if I can only say, just to touch upon what Vincent said, because it tickled me when you mentioned Castor Semenya. I remember watching the news about her in Croatia, and I was mad at the media, because from what I've heard in Croatian news, it sounded to me like doping. It sounded to me like Castor was taking extra testosterone, and like she was trying to cheat on everybody. And then you dig a little bit deeper, you educate yourself on intersex, and you understand that testosterone, yes, it may be we call it in a binary world male hormone, but it is perfectly normal for a woman to have more testosterone, and she recognizes herself as a woman, so she should compete with other women, and it's clear as a daylight. And then you see how some media portrays it and how they're talking about it. It makes you really sad and frustrated.
This is why it's important that the LGBTQI community works together with sports federations, I think, on
Yeah.
local, national level, but also worldwide. And
Yeah.
there's still a lot to do. And that's also the reason why the community has now created inclusive sports spaces. So Vincent, I'm sure you can tell us more about that too.
Yeah, I guess when the community first started to invest new spaces, sports, because it's sex segregated and gender normative, was one of the areas where action was needed. So actually, the main action that was launched was when Tom Waddle launched the organization of what was called then the Gay Olympics that took place in San Francisco in 1982. He had been himself an Olympian in decathlon, and he had this idea to offer a competition that would be open to everybody. So it's not queer specific games, it's open to everybody, and whatever their abilities. So the idea of creating a big international open competition for everybody. Well, it was well received by the community. It started to grow. The International Olympic Committee didn't like the name, so they sued the organization,
Really?
but had to change the name and drop the name Olympics. So that's why it changed from Gay Olympics to Gay Games, and it's still
Shame.
known as the Gay Games today. It's organized every 4 years, and this first Gay Games in 1982, it really triggered something all around the world. Sports inclusive associations started to start in all major cities. In Europe, we had the organization of the European Gay and Lesbian Sports Federation in 1989. And in our city of Brussels, the first inclusive sports group was launched in 1991, so it's 30 years this year.
Yay.
It was just a volleyball team at that time. It was called Les Coccinelles, the Beatles.
Les Coxy, never heard about it.
But soon after, more sports were added, and the organization took the name that we know today as Brussels Gay Sports. And it's the main inclusive sports association in Belgium with about 20 different activities, and it's open to everybody.
Yeah, and so we personally also know BGS because
Indeed.
we are part of the water polo team in there. So, Bogat, you joined the team a couple of years ago. So, how did it change your life here in Brussels?
Well, it definitely changed my life because I was already looking for a team sports. After moving here to Brussels, I wanted to integrate myself a little bit better in Brussels. And the thing is, the first game I've seen, it was in Antwerp, where there was the Gay Games,
It was the Out Games.
Out
It was the
Games.
Out Games,
Yeah.
sorry. It was the Out Games. And then I saw this team in Antwerp, and I was wondering if there was a team, a water polo team in Brussels. And when I joined, it really changed my life here in Brussels, as I got plenty of new friends. But also I felt that I finally arrived to a place where I can be complete with my sportive ambitions, which are not that high anymore, but still. I could play sport. I met like-minded people. We had a shared history, a broader history together. And it was just really heartwarming to see that we can build this entirely different kind of sportive community that doesn't really rely on bullying and scaring people away and just results on results. And for me, it was really a life-changing moment. So I'm really happy and I'm really glad that I found this opportunity.
So, Vincent, let's talk about the water polo team, which is the Brussels Mannequin Fish. We exist, I will say we because I'm part of it too. So the Brussels Mannequin Fish exists since 2012, and we were working hard to have a nice, fun team that is playing well, but also having fun outside of the pool. And we had, like, we can say, a climax in 2018 in the Paris Gay Games. Can you explain what happened there?
Yeah, so as we were building up the team throughout the years, we decided to set a little bit of ambitions for these gay games that were very close to us in Paris. So we decided that we would try to bring two teams to Paris and compete and have fun with the ambition of getting on the podium when we left. And I must say it was one of the most amazing experience in my life, because we built up training for about 2 years, trying to raise our level. And there, it matched our expectations. So we really had a lot of fun, but also played well and ended up reaching the podium as we had hoped, with a bronze medal.
Yeah, it was nice.
So
Yeah.
we were like very happy, not only for the result and this medal, but for all this journey that we had together in building the team and building this team feeling between us. And it was really a collective project. And beyond that, it's also taking part in these competitions that you realize that you are part of a much broader community. So in the Gay Games in Paris, we had more than 10,000 athletes participating, and our water polo community is just extended all around the world. We like to go to competition as much as we can, and we meet people from other team. We compete against each other, but we also have fun together and create a sense of belonging and almost being part of the same family. So I think that's what inclusive sports bring. It's, as Bogat said, not only the possibility to do sport in an inclusive environment, but it's much more than sports. So that's also why I invested in sports, inclusive sports, is because it's much more than sports.
So, Vjeran, you joined the team not a long time ago. You come
Yep.
from Zagreb, Croatia, and the history of the team is already quite old. It exists since more than 8 years now. So, how does it feel to enter that strong team?
It feels absolutely amazing. I didn't feel not for a second that I don't belong there in the team. So I joined the team exactly a year ago, and the team was just so welcoming. Of course, there's a lot of international community within the team. It's not only Belgians, it's people from all over Europe and the world. It's just an incredible, friendly place where you not only enjoy the sport, but enjoy the community, feel like you're part of something bigger, play, have fun. After the training, you go and enjoy each other's company, again, have fun some more, and it's really, 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 really great experience.
Yeah, and water polo is part of BGS. So, how many activities does BGS propose?
I'm not sure exactly. It's about 20 different activities.
20 sports
Yeah.
in BGS.
Yes, you can check on
Wow.
the website
bgs.org. Yeah.
What I wanted to add to what we said, because maybe being 4 gay men around the table make it not clear, is that it's fully inclusive. So it's open to male, female, all genders, all sexualities, and our team is also representative of these aspects, which is very important. So because when people hear about queer sports or gay sports or lesbian sport, whatever, they think that it's kind of segregated
One, yeah, or the other.
and really, okay, open only to the LGBTQI community. But no, actually, I think what inclusive sports is bringing is a completely different vision about sports, a vision that is completely gender blind. I think we can still work a little bit to make it even more gender blind. I think in water polo it's very much gender blind, but still we could improve. In other sports could be improved also. So I think it can serve also as an example to show to a more conventional sports organization that there is a possibility to be inclusive, and that this sex segregated position could be also transformed in the future.
Okay.
Definitely. And I just wanted to add that on top of visibility that it brings, queer sports, inclusive sports, it can also help a lot for not just for the individual who joins to these teams, but their family members that maybe they're struggling with the idea of someone's sexuality. And for my example, with my father, for example, he was always very proud of my sportive achievements. And when I actually told them that I'm part of this inclusive team, he really made this switch in his mind regarding queer people, because in his mind it was not possible for queer people to play sport. So it's really important that we have this visibility, and it can help, beyond the individual as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for this topic. Thank you, Vincent. Bogat, again, I see no book on the table there, so you will talk about movies?
Yes, I have 2 movie recommendations for the week. Because we talked about sex segregation in sports, my first recommendation is a movie from 2017. It's called Battle of the Sexes, and it's about the legendary tennis game between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. In the 1970s, the general idea was that female sports is less interesting. It's boring. It doesn't bring as much money as male sports. And the story basically about Billie Jean King, who got challenged by Bobby Riggs to have this fantastic game, which will go down in history as a big slap of sexism, in the face of sexism. So it's very nice because it talks about homophobia. It talks about sexism in sports in general. So I really recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, because Billie Jean King is a role model.
It's a role model, and also because she came out later on as a lesbian. So it's everything you want: lesbians, tennis, queer people. So it's really fun.
Well, what's the name of the movie?
The movie is Battle of the Sexes.
Yeah.
And I have another recommendation which is very close to our heart. It's called The Shiny Shrimps, a French movie from 2019. And we talked about gay games and how this world is so much fun. And basically the movie is about this. It's about a world champion French swimmer who makes some homophobic remarks during a TV interview. And as a sanction, he needs to train a very fabulous gay team who is preparing for gay games in Croatia.
Yeah, Croatia.
So it's a really fun movie, and it gives you a glimpse in our little fabulous queer intensive sport world.
Yeah, and you should watch it quickly because the second part is just starting to shoot right now.
Nice.
So the second part is coming soon, hopefully.
You know where I watched it? I watched it in an airplane of Air Belgium, and I was surprised that they had it. It's a fantastic movie. It's really funny. Really, the plot is great, and they go to Croatia. So
watch The Shiny Shrimps.
Les crevettes pailletées.
Les crevettes pailletées in French, indeed.
Okay. Thank you, Bogat. And now let's talk about music with Vjeran. What's the news?
Well, unfortunately, we have to start with some very sad news. The LGBTQ plus community and the world has lost a trailblazing musical icon. So we would like to take a moment here to remember Sophie, who has tragically and unexpectedly passed away following an accident in Athens. Sophie was, through her own visionary and boundary-pushing music, she collaborated with Madonna, Charlie XCX, collaborated with Kim Petras, but she was truly a powerhouse in modern pop and a pioneer in transgender visibility, especially in pop music and in the music industry in general. Aged only 34, the Scottish musician has been taken away way before her time.
Oh, that's sad.
So may she rest in peace, power, and glory.
Yeah.
In continuation about the recommendations to follow up to the previous episodes, now I would like to talk about a few artists, queer icons that all released their records in 2020, which helped us go through all the many lockdowns and mood swings that go together with the lockdowns and the unfortunate global pandemic that we found ourselves in. So I'm sure I'm not the only one whose Spotify year rewind list was topped by Rain on Me by Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande. And well, I was topped by something else as well. But
Too much
let's
information.
get serious. Let's get it together. Lady Gaga, Dua Lipa, Kylie Minogue, all queer icons, all released incredible records. Guys, which one? It doesn't have to be any of these three ladies. Which album helped you survive pandemic?
Well, you know it around the table. I mean, Dua Lipa's album is for me the best disco pop album ever. So this was really my lifeline during the confinement.
I have to say the same. Like Hallucinate, I think I listened to it 20 million times.
Bogat, please say Chromatica.
Well, of course I'm gonna say Chromatica.
Yes,
I have to say my most listened song was Babylon on Chromatica. It was number one in my
Fabulous.
list. Yeah.
Fabulous. Absolutely amazing. But now I would like to put an emphasis on one more artist who has actually released a debut album during a year that now we wouldn't really like to remember. And you have to have in mind that she released a debut album with no chance to promote it on tour, TV, not even a small mere gay bar, and still it was released to widespread acclaim. Her name is Rina Sawayama, and the name of her debut album is Sawayama. It explores personal experiences from both her childhood and adulthood. It is also about belonging and about family and identity, which Sawayama says means understanding herself in the context of two opposing cultures. Rina being both British and Japanese. Throughout the album, she's exploring what belonging means when home is an evolving concept. As she says, figuring out where you sit comfortably within and awkwardly outside the stereotypes, and ultimately trying to be okay with just you being you. I think that's really amazingly put, and I think that queer people can find themselves very easily in this, like comfortably within and sitting awkwardly outside of the stereotypes. Interestingly, she came out in 2018 by saying that she simply always writes songs about girls, that none of her songs mention boys, and she wants to be free to openly talk about it. She also toured in 2019 as a supporting act to Charlie XCX.
Okay.
We love a nice queer army.
Yeah, amazing. And all those songs, you can find them on your podcast list, on the Spotify playlist.
Yes.
Okay.
KET playlist at Spotify.
Yeah, amazing. So, we are at the end of this new episode of KET Talks. So, first of all, thank you to Visit Brussels for supporting KET Magazine and the podcast. And of course, thank you to you here around the table.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Philippe.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that you who are listening to us also had a good time. Go to the website ket.brussels to know everything about the latest news and what's going on. You can follow our Instagram account, the Facebook, the Spotify, the YouTube accounts. To stay tuned, you can find all those links on the website of ket.brussels. So, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.